Hi, Raghu. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Chip. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing
Hey.
well.
Oh, doing great. Thank you. We're also joined today by Andy Hall, who is another co-founder or co-organizer of the AWS meetup.
Hey everybody.
Hey, Andy. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Good, good.
So, Raghu, we're super excited to have you join us today. This is a treat for us. I think that what you have built, you and the co-founders at Quantiphi, is something extremely special when it comes to all things related to data and what you've done with data to help our customers really achieve new levels of performance and outcomes. What we'd really like to do is understand why you and the co-founders decided now's a good time to build a professional services firm focusing on data, and why did you decide to do what you did in building it out? If we could start off with that and give us some of your thinking, that would really help shape out the conversation. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Chip. Yeah. So I think I will go back to the last decade. The close of last decade saw some amazing innovations in the technology space. Number one is cloud storage as well as compute becoming much more broadly usable, as well as the cost of doing it was entirely different than what used to be before. So therefore, what it really did was it actually initiated a lot of things in the market. Number one was the rapid innovation of AI and machine learning in the market, right, which could not have been done before. So that actually drove to a scenario and thought process amongst the four co-founders of Quantiphi as to there is a gap that exists for the large enterprises to leverage that, right? So one is cloud, storage, compute, and the innovations in AI and ML. How do we bring all of these things together and form a company and be relevant in the marketplace? So that is the whole foundation of the company.
That's fantastic. So how long ago did you found the business then?
The company started in 2013, and by 2016, we kind of pivoted into the data space. Till then, we were, trying to figure out what that means to the market, to be honest. So 2016, we pivoted into it, all about data. And ever since 2016, we have seen a growth rate of roughly 2.5x year on year.
Oh, fantastic. So you're now a serious AWS partner. You've achieved a number of different service delivery badges. You're focused on AI, ML, personalized, forecast, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you decide to invest the time, people, and money to build out that practice that you have today? What did that enable you to do now?
Yeah, so I guess let me start the philosophical angle of why AWS. There is a lot of commonalities between how AWS looks at the market, looks at people, as well as us. Number one, we love solving problems for customers. So that is something AWS is mastering on. Everything is about customers, right? So that is a close connection from philosophical perspective. Number two is always look at business value. Same case with AWS. Every single service that comes out, everybody in the world is excited and they wait for the reInvent to happen to see what is that is tangible to my business coming out. So we are like that. So we want to really drive business value to customers. That is the second. The third is always ahead of the game in terms of cutting edge technology. That's what AWS is great at. And we believe that is a way to go in future. We are a next generation born company from a services perspective. And we believe this relationship with AWS makes it really impactful to the market as well as for us from a philosophical standpoint. So that is a philosophy point. The second is in 2017, when AWS came out with what you call SageMaker and the investments they started making in AI and ML, it became so relevant for us. So we were already building the technology capabilities that is required. And now we have an amazing big what you call provider, which is building all of these tools and techniques that we could bring it together to make things real for the enterprise. That is a real reason for this, I would say, partnership between us and AWS.
Reghu, thank you very much for sharing that. Just a couple of questions around that.
Yeah.
So why specifically AI and ML? And then what are some of the things that you're doing today with that technology set?
Yeah. So why AI and ML is number one is as I said, the things that could not have been imagined to be implemented in the past, right, is possible to be done today because of the infrastructure for compute and storage. That actually drives a lot of what you call uh, things for us to do that a machine can take over and do in comparison to a human more accurately, and more so it is going to drive a cost of delivering services as well as building goods much lower, right? So that is the whole idea of why AI and machine learning, with respect to our collaboration with AWS and some of the solutions that we've delivered, is all at this space. So if you take the broad spectrum of services that Quantiphi has, there is one foundational piece that we call as data solutions. That is where we build data infrastructures for enterprise customers, because that is the foundation for delivering AI and ML. So for example, building data lakes, enterprise data lakes, building data hubs, very contextual to business, etc. So that forms under that umbrella. The other umbrella of work that we do is what we call as applied artificial intelligence or applied AI. This is the space where we leverage some of the innovations and products and services that people like AWS does, bring it and make it real for our customers. So classic example in that case is demand forecasting. There is a forecast service that AWS has released. We have leveraged that forecast service to build for quick service restaurants a forecasting of all of the things that is required on a 15 minutes interval in all of the locations and outlets of a specific quick service restaurant. So imagine that it forecasts every 15 minutes what is the demand of their 100 menu items, like how it's going to be sold, number one. Number two, therefore, how many people they need to have in their outlets, therefore, how many accessories they need to have in their outlets. So that is a classic example of what could be possible. And as a matter of fact, the things that are moving as an innovation perspective is trying to even make the production of some of these food items automatic in future. So that is, imagine that, right? I mean, that is the potential for AI and ML to work in the space.
So in terms of Quantify's delivery capabilities,
mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you engage with the customer and help understand what matters most to them in that end state, working backwards as a good Amazonian would? Can you give us some insight in terms of what you do to get to that point?
Yeah. So let me talk about the capabilities that we have built, right? We have 1,100 people within the organizations globally, cuts across various different locations in India, in the US, in Marlborough, Massachusetts, in Princeton, New Jersey, San Jose, Chicago, and Toronto in Canada. In India, we have 2 locations, Mumbai and Bangalore. So that is the whole setup of people and where the capabilities are coming in. To specifically answer your question, how we solve customer problems. First of all, we are obsessed in solving customer problems, right? I mean, that is our obsession. We really want to find out what customers are trying to solve and just focus on that. We have an interesting model that has worked very effectively with customers. We call it a hack it, prove it, nail it, scale it model. Okay. The whole hack it concept is the first point which you mentioned. What is in there for the customer? What is their end game? We define that in most of the hackathons, right? It is not the true hackathons as to what happens in colleges and schools. These are very focused on solving business problems, bringing in business leaders into a room, right? Once we do that, then we go into what we would call as a prove it stage. The prove it stage is take the concept, build a minimum viable, product or solution, right? That will prove that this can be done. The next part of it is you're going to nail it and implement it for a specific area of the business and scale it for other business. That's the next stage. So that is our model. A classic example is when we were called in by one of the largest beverage companies to find a solution for identifying a 16-character alphanumeric number in a bottle cap using a magic wand type experience using phone. The steps we took is we understood the problem. The first step is we can prove a computer vision can even solve something similar. So we actually took a number plate of a UK license plate and used a phone to prove it. Much more easier because it's much more legible, much more bigger, but it proves the point it can be done and put into a phone, right? So that is the starting point, right? sorry, I had a little bit of technology issues. But again, so that is where we started with the prove it, and then we moved on to nail it and scale it. We are the computer vision partner for them.
That is an exceptionally successful process for you. I mean, obviously you've instituted and implemented a methodology that is extremely effective, scalable, and you're able to leverage it across continents globally.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, having the opportunity to personally work with the teams that you have in India, I mean, I'm absolutely amazed at the level, the depth and breadth of professionalism that your team has. It's truly remarkable. So we just want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been incredibly insightful in terms of just giving us an idea of really where it all started and why you are what you are today in terms of being one of the top AWS partners specializing in AI ML in the world. So thank you so much, Reghu. I got to ask you, would you come back and do another segment?
Absolutely, anytime.
Perfect.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Reghu.
Thanks a lot.
All right.